Jesus, good evening. Welcome along to the forum. I'm going to have to get Gavin a new tape recorder because that theme tune is bleeding brutal. Like, I don't know what's happened there. We used to have an MP3. He's definitely taken that off a TDK 90 from 1984. Good evening. Welcome along to the show. It's great to see us all in the chat. You might have noticed that I've mentioned Gav's name. That area, he's just appeared there beside me. Below him, we have Shane Davern, and on the other side of him there is Pete. And Pete, we won't be lasting 2 hours on a fucking podcast tonight. You've absolutely looped the loop, right? And when I tell people to speak, you don't just jump in and start talking for them. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying no more after that. Tonight, we've got 4 topics. We're looking at Trent. We're looking at Klopp. We're looking at should we need transfers. And then finally, we're going to round off with what constitutes a good season for Liverpool Football Club and Athletic Grounds this year and Nike kits. And do you know what? If we get bored talking about that stuff, we might see if there's anything funny that comes up in the chat in the meantime. I'm joined, as you all know, the Sienna stuff is going on. So keep donating, keep doing it. We've got until, is it November, Gav, that we have to do this? Right, we have until November. We want to get this money sorted. We want to get this girl her operation. We want to make sure that she has the best chances possible to have a normal life. And when I say a normal life, it doesn't mean that she won't have a normal life regardless, but just that she'll have an easier life in terms of being able to walk around and do all the stuff that she'd want to do, as any kid wants to do. That's out there. So with that, look, we're going to roll on and we're going to look at the first topic, which we look at the second most assisty man in the league, which is Trent Alexander. And if I was Danny Murphy now, I'd start warbling on like a fucking cat being strangled in a bag before thrown in a river about something about should be sticking him into midfield because he makes the assists and that's what all the England players do, stick him into midfield because midfield and centre midfield and Steven Gerrard and centre midfield and midfield and centre midfield. Gavin, Trent, generational talent at right back, probably arguably the world's greatest right back at the moment. Take us away.
Yeah, I was thinking about Gareth Southgate earlier for some mad reason, and it always upsets me when I do that, so I thought, fuck him. I'm going to talk about Trent Alexander-Arnold. A generational talent I don't even think does him justice. I'm being honest with you. Like, he's 22 odd years of age, and excuse me, what I'm watching him do for Liverpool now is just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You know, I spoke with Shawnee yesterday about the match on Saturday, and everyone was going on about, you know, Harvey Elliott and Henderson had a good game and Van Dijk, and I just said to him, Trent, and he just said, Gav, he's a joke. He's an absolute joke. He said, like, defensively, he was against their best player at the weekend, and I think he done very well. Because unless Trent absolutely shuts a guy out for 90 minutes, he's considered as having a bad game defensively, which is outrageous, you know. And you look at other defenders and they make mistakes or they get rammed once or twice and they can still be given 8 or 9 out of 10. He's held, and I suppose that's something that he's held at on such a high regard behind it all. You know, the sort of way, if anything goes against Trent, it's like, wow, something happened, Trent, and now here's something we can bait him with. But to look at him at 22 years of age, and like, I brought this up because I want to get your opinions on it, and maybe, like, I think you think he's probably one of the best around. I would say Davo and Pete think the same, but I just wanted to have a chat about him because, you know what, I'm watching this guy since he started. We all are. You know, and he comes into a team, and the story goes is that he was a midfielder in the youth setup, and he was a centre midfielder, he was a right midfielder, and they spotted that, you know, go at right back. This is your quickest route into the first team. You're a brilliant talent, but right now at Liverpool, going back whatever 4 or 5 years ago, we had midfielders, we had wingers, we had good players, and this was your quickest route. And he's gone in there, and the way he plays right back, I've never seen anyone do it, never. And I can't think of anybody. I can't think of anybody that's as good defensively as him, which I think he is, and I think he's improving all the time. I think he's matured in a physical sense over the last year, especially. You know, he makes his debut, I think, at Old Trafford and does quite well. And you just watch the way he plays the game, passing, he tackles, he passes, he runs, crosses, shoots. He does everything. He's 25 yards from goal, centrally, for Liverpool's second goal on Saturday. 25 yards from goal centrally, right? About 6 seconds after the centre back that plays, you know, 2 positions over is kicking the ball from 70 yards from the goal. It's just, I think he's a generational talent, and I think he'll stay at Liverpool for the rest of his career. I hope he does. And when he finishes, I think he will go down as one of the best players that's ever played for Liverpool Football Club. Never mind right back. I think he will go down as one of the best that's ever played for Liverpool Football Club. But I want to see what you think.
Shane Davern, What do you reckon?
Yeah, listen, Gav was talking there about him, and he's kind of taking all the words out of my mouth that I wanted to say. Do you know what I mean? He's like Gav said. I actually he did make his debut at Old Trafford, and I think he was. I wouldn't say he was poor for one of the goals, but he had a tough time. I think Rashford might have torn him for one of the goals. So he's had some adversity. On Saturday, I actually didn't think he started the game great with the ball, but then come like as the game wore on and come 70, 80 minutes, I'm kind of sitting there going, Jesus, Trent's been fucking brilliant. And that was even with me sitting there saying after the first 10 minutes, whatever, it was just Trent's been a little bit sloppy today. But yeah, listen, it's the range of passing. It really is. Gabba's right. Like the position he's in to flick that little ball around the corner to Mane, he's spot on. He's right full. Like he's our right back. He's 25 yards from goal, slipping a ball through after a long burst and run to go up with Elliot to take the ball off him. But it's his passing range. And like what Gav said, the academy, like they saw right back could be a position that that had a need in the first team. And I think I read a bit of an article. They put him at right full, and they used to put their best wingers out there on the left and just say, go with Trent, go with Trent, go with Trent, over and over and over, day after day after day after day. The best wingers that they had in the academy to toughen them up and to get them used to playing there. So, listen, but for me, he's absolutely a generational talent, and I don't think there's a right back in world football that can pass a ball like him. Like, even I think one of the more underrated goals that doesn't get talked about is, I'm nearly sure it was in the league, because I know we played them in the Champions League around that time, but at the Etihad, the one that Robbo puts on a play for Firmino header, and Trent comes back inside and hits a fucking 60-yard ball with his left peg, zinged it straight to Robbo. Ball goes across to Firmino, a header in, after us keeping the ball, by the way, for about fucking 15, 20 passes. So it's a really underrated goal. But yeah, look, you're not going to get any arguments from me. Absolutely unbelievable generational talent. And like Gav said, he's an absolute unit now. You see him running there, he's a fucking unit.
Pete, what do you want to say?
Nothing to disagree with. For me,
make a statement. Make a statement.
I mean, no. There's two things really. No, two things for me. You look at anyone that has a half decent game at right back for any opposition clubs. The immediate comparison is come outside. I think the phrase "come outside" was coined for Trent Alexander-Arnold and whatever pretender. I mean, I look at, for example, last season, Manchester United supporters trying to compare Wan-Bissaka. I have the same problem with players like Wan-Bissaka as I did with Javier Mascherano. If you spend so much time on your arse in a tackle, a lot of people, foolish people out there, think that's the sign of a great player. That's actually, in my opinion, the sign of an overrated or poor player who, whose first touch is mule enough, or his position is mule enough, that he has to end up in last-ditch tackles. You don't see that with Trent Alexander-Arnold. And on the positive side, I've never seen a team geared towards getting its fullbacks on the ball as much as Liverpool are. I mean, the idea is to get Trent and Robertson on the football 50 and 60 yards up the field. I mean, fullbacks are impossible to mark in a conventional 4-4-2 setup. But can you imagine what it's like trying to pick them up? You have to sacrifice your wide players, and they have to be prepared to go into very, very strange positions to try and stop Liverpool the way they play. I've never seen that. I remember years ago watching Brazil in I think it was then 2002 World Cup, the 1-1, and being in awe when they played that strange, at the time, 3-5-2 or 5-3-2. When I remember looking at Cafu, doing things that you hadn't probably seen a fullback do since Carlos Alberto. But Trent, for me, represents what football has become and is becoming. You mentioned earlier on the obsession with midfield, get him into midfield. By all intents and purposes, he is playing midfield. This is not a fullback we're looking at, and neither is Robertson. A very, very complete, football player. Whatever. For me, it's situational. Wherever the ball is, or whatever, whether we're attacking or defending, or whatever shape we have to have for whatever situation, that's where he is. And it's always geared towards getting him high up the park, Robertson high up the park, getting that switch from one to the other, usually from Robertson to him, to get him on the ball, to make sure he's the one to find the ball. Just the umphret is an absolute phenomenon.
Red Steve is clearly a long-time listener. If he's referring to John Glenson, somebody who I brought to the masses, the worst right full we've had in about 20 odd years. We're talking about a guy who is different, and I think what's best about Trent is the fact that the spanners who run the English national team haven't a breeze where to play him. Generally, when Liverpool has had one of the best players, if not the best player in an England squad, he never gets a game. So I'm thinking of McManaman. I'm thinking of Johnny Barnes, right? Trent is in this line because he doesn't fit the preset mold, which is the Sam Allardyce warehouse of football and coaching, where the right back sits in and blocks things and blocks crosses and plays the ball to the right winger who likes to kick the ball into the box, right? He's not that, because he's both of that. He's both the right winger and the right full. He's both your main attacking threat as well as a strong defensive attack-minded fullback. And they can't get their head around this. They can't understand how a right back can operate as the fulcrum for a team's attacking unit. They haven't figured out that people on the continent have been using fullbacks to spread the width in teams, but also to deliver that sort of width that you need if you want to be an attack-minded football team. Think of Zanetti when he played for Argentina, right? Like he used to destroy teams down the right-hand side. Think of, you've mentioned Cafu, Dani Alves, Jordi Alba as fullbacks. They didn't play as... They could defend, but their focus was on what they provided to the team, so as teams couldn't attack them. If you're providing such a threat up the other end of the pitch that teams can't exploit the space, because they know that if a ball is played out to him, he's going to pull you apart because he has the passing ability and the ability to tread a ball in the same manner as an attack midfielder, you're banjaxed. And that's what's happened. If you look at the way Chelsea have tried to address it, I've seen somebody mention Reece James, and they've mentioned and they've mentioned somebody else, Mounty, or one of these lads who was playing for United. Bissaka, no, it wasn't him. They mentioned somebody else. Trippier is your classic English rifle. I understand the Trippier obsession. He's your classic.
He's a regen, the Leeds lad. Yeah,
he's perfect. He's perfect for an English football team, right? He's perfect. He plays right back. He's a right back, right? He plays right back the way a right back should play, right? But he's not what Trent is, and that's why it's fantastic to see him emerge the way he has. And
this is why he's different, Phil.
Yeah, and this is it, Gav. And this is where I hope what happened with Gerrard doesn't happen to Trent, in that this pull, and it potentially doesn't with Klopp, right? This pull to drag him into some idea that he's a centre midfielder, when quite clearly, I don't care what he did as an 18 and 19 and 16 and a 15. I don't care what he did, right? There's fellas who, Mignolet played as a centre midfielder until he was 16. He should have stayed there, in my opinion. But like that's what he ends up playing a professional goalkeeper, right? Like, it doesn't matter what you do. It matters what happens when you come into it. And what's happened with Klopp and in terms of how he got this player in, he says, I need my fullbacks to be an attacking fulcrums in terms of what's there. And he identified Trent as the guy who has that skill set. And he's perfect. You can't have a better fullback in this type of setup. You can't have a better attacking fulcrum the way Klopp likes to play as he does. He has the ability to play at the edge of his own box and split a defence from the edge of his own fullbacks to across the pitch to a Mane. He can get up the pitch with the engine that he has and deliver decent crosses. And he can also cut inside, provide a threat from shots, but also be able to play simple and intelligent balls through. And teams can't pick him up. And the idea with this, I think people need to get away from this, and it's not just him. This whole team is set up not to be a rigid formation. This idea of 4-3-3 and 4-1-3-FT fucking FYZ, right? There isn't. These lads play in roughly general positions and fill in different spots. And you can see how the team moves as different things happen to prevent transitions and prevent breakdowns. And people need to look beyond the simplified drawings that people put up on social media and left, right, and centre.
But he's sorry, Michael Lee has a super chat. He said there's times where he struggles when he's being run at and gets caught out. Do you think he can improve this? He absolutely can. And I think at United away, he gets done. You remember a flick on from, it might have been Lukaku actually.
It's 14 years ago.
Yeah, but it's a flick on, and I think Rashford gets inside him. It's a cover thing, but I haven't seen him being caught like that again. You know, he learns, but I think he's a victim of non-bravery, I suppose, from Gareth Southgate. Because the only time I ever see an argument over why Trent is in the England team is because, can he defend? Which is a fucking myth. Okay, Reece James is a really good footballer, but he doesn't give you. I think Trent does as much as
better
Reece
go,
James.
Cup horse.
No, well, I think Reece James. I think Reece James does does a good job, but I don't think he has that extra bit that Trent has. Trippier, like you said, is a classic right back. He's a Gary Neville type right back, and he's only being elevated, I think, because he took a free kick in the World Cup once. Do you know what I mean? And there's others there. Wan-Bissaka is just an all-out defender. You know, if you're like backs to the wall, I think he's a good defender. But again, he gets caught on the cover loads of times. The Man United fans will tell you that. But when you look at Trent, and you've mentioned Dani Alves and Roberto Carlos, when you look at the players, the teams they played in, it wasn't all about pace up front. It was about Zidane picking pockets. It's about Messi picking pockets, Iniesta, Xavi. All these players picking pockets, and your outlet and pace behind was your fullback. All right? Trent can do that. But in the teams that he plays in now, Salah wants Trent to be able to look and go, there's a space and I'm hitting him with it. All right? Salah loves that. You can't tell me that Raheem Sterling, Harry Kane, or Sancho, or whoever, aren't looking going, get him in the fucking team. Because he'll put the ball on Harry Kane's head 9 times out of 10, and he'll put balls in behind that will kill teams for your forwards. And you know, and even if you said, oh well, does he need protection? He played the other day with an 18-year-old in front of him, and there wasn't an issue about protection. He suits any sort of game, and people don't believe that because, oh well, if England are under the cosh, can Trent defend? Give it over. You know what I mean? It's actually mad. If you want to play with all-out pace wide, he's great. If you want to play with people that pick pockets and you want balls into them, he's great. There's no argument against Trent Alexander-Arnold, and that's why I brought this up tonight, because I think he's still undervalued by some, and I think people are they won't eat their words because they die on these hills all the time. But I think a lot of people will have to eat their words, if not now, very soon, and most definitely when he finishes his career.
Well, there seems to be the chat seems to be kind of going from an England point of view with it, right? And that's I don't mind that at all. Like if you think to the Euros, right? England get to the final, they lose a penalty shootout, right? To Italy. Now, Italy's game against Spain, the semi-final, for the first half an hour of that game, Spain or however long till Morata came on, Spain didn't play with centre forward, and the two boys, Italy back forward, were all over the place. Their heads were spinning because the two boys had nobody to mark. Right then, because that's what they want. And like what Phil said, the rigid Englandness, little Englandness coming in that play a rigid system that don't want movement. Well, they do want movement, but it's like they don't know where to play Trent. Now, can you imagine the Italian team or whatever seeing an England right full to picking the ball up, making a run 25 yards from goal, flicking balls around the corner? Like they're not used to that. They don't want to see that. They want two lads up against them. They don't want runners. They want everything in front of them. And it like you said, Gav, lack of bravery. They don't know what to do with them. And there's just a small thing like Spain possibly could have knocked Italy out if they had taken their chances early in that game because Italy were all over the place. England get to the final, goes to penalties. If Trent is there, he probably wouldn't have played him anyway. But who knows? Do you know what I mean? He's a superb footballer.
Davo, on that though, think about it. When we were looking at the European Championships and laughing at the what was going on, the fella that was up to be Italy's best player was their fullback that was providing the attacking threat for that whole Italian side. English people in particular are obsessed with the idea of putting your best player in the centre of the midfield. Do you remember Beckham? The fella couldn't run forward or backwards, right? Beckham was incredibly good at being wide out on the wing and whipping these brilliant balls in and taking set pieces, right? And they were obsessed with getting him into the centre midfield as well. Gerrard, his best position was behind the striker, almost as a number 10, an all-action number 10, where he wasn't being asked to pick up runners behind him or do mad things. It was basically just cause mayhem. When we get the ball, give him the ball, you go cause the mayhem. You put the balls through to Torres, you ping ones in the top corner, you can get yourself wide and ping another one into the box. Cause mayhem. What was the obsession? Get him into centre midfield. Everything is to get him into centre midfield. If they had a decent goalkeeper, they'd be looking to get him out of goal and get him into the centre midfield because he can kick the ball low.
Security can be in the middle of them.
Yeah, David Seaman, get him in midfield. You know about that, Shane. You know what I mean? Get him in midfield. Everything is get him in midfield. Get them in midfield. Harry Kane, get him in midfield. See what he can do. At this stage, they'll have 11 midfielders. They literally just have lads standing in the centre circle and nothing else around the side of the pitch. Get him in midfield because he can do what he wants. Honestly, It's bizarre. It's beyond me. It's beyond me.
Can I answer that? That's on screen from Veranda Cheese, and he's doing that to wind me up. I know he is, so I'll read it anyway. Gav, you laughed at Avi when he said Ox would be a good cover for Trent, when realistically Ox would be the perfect cover, as he would probably do the attacking part just as good as Trent. That's utter bollocks. All right, because Oxlade-Chamberlain is not hitting the passes. All right, he won't be on the pitch because he doesn't have the fitness anyway. All right, but he won't be hitting the passes he hits. He won't be hitting the crosses he hits. He won't be hitting the free kicks he hits. He's nothing like Trent Alexander-Arnold. Nothing like him. And God forgive me, the day that Oxlade-Chamberlain turns out in a first 11 as a Liverpool right back, we're all in serious trouble.
Not going to happen.
When Stevie G comes in, when Stevie G comes in and takes over as manager after Klopp and sticks Trent centre midfield, and it's an absolute disaster, then everyone can get to see what happens when you stick a right back into the centre midfield, right? That's just what's going to happen. So it's just like, forget about it. But from our point of view,
that came from towards the end of his time at Arsenal. Oxlade-Chamberlain, in fairness, was pulling up trees at right back, but I think he was in the shop window at that stage. But
he wasn't right back.
Well, it was kind of right wing back.
He was right wing. He was right wing back with a back four behind him, because the left wing back was a left back Monreal.
Here's a quick one for you, right? And just to close it out, because he's a generational player for us, regardless of whether he's playing right back or right back. Don't play him anywhere else. But you're not away. Your man that used to play for Real Madrid. What was his name? Ramos. Remember, he started out as a right back and moved into being a centre back.
As a young player.
And Maldini played as a full back and then moved into being a centre back, right? And he was a great right back as well. And is there a chance now, Ox? Look, you think of Carragher started out as right back, moved in a centre back. What about sticking in Trent as being an old fashioned, the Kaiser in there, being a libero, playing behind a back three and just picking the ball and pinging passes all over the shop?
He could do, but
you never know.
The way he's going,
put him in midfield.
No, the way he's the way he's going.
He could be the one in front of the four behind the tree.
He could be. You laugh, but I think you could end up with him. You could end up with him near the end of his career, actually moving into the defensive midfielder.
Look,
yeah,
there's a real.
A bit like they done with Gerrard, but in the opposite direction.
Exactly. The shades of Will Hullet in there. The shades of Glenn Hoddle in there. He has a little bit of everything. You know, that wand he has. He could stand still and still be great. He's just one of them.
There we go. Right. Given we've had a lot of Little Englander chats, I suppose it's a nice way to move on to our next topic.
It's not Little Englander though. It's just Gareth Southgate. It's just Gareth Southgate. You know what I mean?
It's not though. I've seen the chats there. There's some lad called Paul Smith there banging on about a right back needs to defend first, right? There's fellas making the.
Where do you know where Paul Smith's from?
I don't. Who cares? I'm doing what Pete did with Barry Glendenning online, which was
okay, we won't go there.
Just accused him of being British.
Right,
He's from Longford. Anyway, right. Just on that, since we're in the Little Englander against the World Shot, Shane, let's move into your topic. It's Klopp versus Sean Dyche. It's like the longest running feud. Alongside Hulk Hogan and somebody else, and it's like it just seems to be this weird sort of sidebar that goes on whenever we play Burnley, that there seems to be a row between Klopp and Sean Dyche. So it's go on, take us away there.
Well, look at that was my topic, and then Gav and the boys did do a bit in it last night, so I was on to Gav today, so we kind of expanded it to Klopp and the media, but Dyche is involved in it. Dyche isn't involved in it. I'm just kind of thinking there's been a bit floating around today, different accounts, different journalists or whatever, kind of Klopp is moaning this and that. And I'm kind of sitting there thinking to myself, is he moaning or is he right? And the fact of the matter is he is right in what he's saying, but he seems to be the one to come out and go to bat first for everybody else. And he fronts up front and centre. You know that kind of way? He's the one kind of, with the Des Kelly stuff, I think he actually defended United and Solskjaer that they had to come back early from wherever the fuck, somewhere in Europe, in the Europa League, Kazakhstan or something, and play against Everton on a 12:30, and that's when that came. But Klopp was on about kind of say the physical tactics with Burnley the weekend. I don't mind the physical side of the game, but then with the likes of Jermaine Jennings and Match of the Day saying he didn't know what Klopp was talking about. like, he's on Twitter today with people pointing out the fouls to him. Yeah, man, Goodmanson picked up fucking Jota and fucking suplexed him. Harvey Elliott got some rough treatment. Yeah, man, Ashley Barnes looked like, I don't even know what he was trying to do. He jumped in the air with 2 feet. It was like he was trying to grab Matip like a WWE move. So, listen, I don't mind the physical side of the game at all. But what I do mind is when they start fucking pissing and moaning about it if someone brings it up. It's the same with, it's the same. You had Burnley the weekend, you had Ashley Barnes and Chris Wood. I don't mind a big fella putting his weight around Lukaku, Drogba, and like that. But I tell you what, that really gets under me fucking skin is when that big fella gets hit and he's rolling around the ground and he's on the ground and he's screaming at the referee, whinging and moaning. Like we did, like I said, there was a statement today then I read from Key Hackett, right, who was the former head of the referees in England now, basically saying that Klopp was moaning, trying to influence the referee for the upcoming game the weekend against Chelsea. But Solskjaer had reason to have beef over the Southampton goal that Fernandes was fouled in the build-up. It seems to be he's an easy target for the media because he comes out and fronts up. I feel he's an easy target, and that fucking bald, gravel-eating fucker Deutsch. Like honest to Jays, I watched his interview after the game, and he was on about physicality in the game. But he says we want physicality in the game. We want to let the game flow as well, but we don't want too many soft frees. And then he says, but there was plenty of soft ones out there yesterday, and you can be sure the shit smells. He's not talking about Burnley. Yeah, man, Goodmanson got shoulder to shoulder, checked by Trent. He goes down holding his head, holding his face. Sean Dyche is looking for a penalty for the shoulder-to-shoulder charge, and your man just drops on the ground. McNeil, never a penalty in a million years. So, listen, I was just putting it out there to you. Is Klopp moaning? Why is he getting it off the media? Because he's fronting up first and he's not afraid to go to back over protecting the players. He obviously had another goal. He also brought up today about the South American lads, about the extra World Cup qualifying game that the boys will be playing on a Thursday night, and then Liverpool play whoever on the Saturday or the Sunday. And FIFA have said that they have to release them. So, listen, what do you think? I personally think he's right, but he's probably an easy target.
Right, Gav, I'm going to go to you first, and I think I'm going to frame this a wee bit, right? If we go away from the Deutsch thing for a second, because we can come back to that in a few minutes in terms of the shite that goes on all the time.
Yeah.
But taking Shane's bit, is there a bit of this that goes back to last year when the media clearly targeted Klopp because they felt that he was cracking up, right? And the whole Des Kelly thing was there in front of them as well. And it echoes a bit what happened in Germany in that Klopp was the darling child of the media for a long time. It happened with Mourinho in England. He was the darling child of the media for a long time. And when things stop being this happy, flowery, laughy, smiley thing, and he gets serious and he puts across a viewpoint, they don't like it, and it gives them an opportunity to snap at him because he's been so successful with the club up until that point.
Yeah, it definitely goes back to last year, because if you look when Klopp comes in, you know, the whole doubters to believers, the normal one, all this sort of stuff, everyone loved him. They loved the way he carried on the side of the pitch, his emotion, and everything was smooth sailing. You know, even when they go 18, 19 and they come second, they win the Champions League, and everyone is delighted for Jurgen Klopp. Des Kelly's on the pitch that night, by the way, when he wins the Champions League. All right, and he's on the fucking pitch when they beat Barcelona as well. He's a little prick, by the way, but it definitely comes in from last year. I can't. Yeah, he sells great carpets, but I can't stand them. I can't stand them because I'm sick of fucking pundits that aren't pundits anymore, and interviewers that aren't interviewers. They're just saying stuff that they're not. Interviewers are meant to say stuff and to get an answer, not fuel it for a reaction before a word comes out of the manager's mouth. But that's another day's conversation. It definitely goes from last season, all right? And Davo's right. He actually does. He backs up Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in an interview because Solskjaer, I think, the day before plays an early game at Goodison and basically says what Klopp says, and nobody opens their mouth to him, but he's right. And then Klopp comes out and basically says the same thing, and all of a sudden Jurgen Klopp is cracking up. Now, they went quiet when they realised that his mother had passed away and all this was going on at the same time when they were trying to hound him. But what he's pointing out the other day is, and Davo has a point, he's pointing out the very obvious. He's not making stuff up. He's not being trivial about it. He's pointing out very obvious things. And if when you watch that game at the weekend, I've no problem with physicality in the game. I think there wasn't enough of it last season. It was very any touch. Players were going down and getting penalties, frees, whatever it might be. But there was instances in that game on Saturday where Klopp specifically points them out. All right, there's one on Harvey Elliott that could have done serious damage in the second half. What are you laughing at?
Andrew Mooney's comment, I hate Des Kelly and Mattress
Week.
Right, okay, I didn't see that. But there's one on Harvey Elliott in the second half where he could have done him serious damage. He lunges at the man lunges. I can't remember the guy's name in midfield, but he lunges at Harvey Elliott and takes him out and could have done him serious damage. Right, Jota is literally picked up and flung. Right, in a nothing challenge, he just picks him up and flings him, and then Jota's in the box, and your man takes a run at him from about 15 yards away and just jumps straight into the back of him when Jota's looking for a pass. That's what Klopp is talking about. They're the instances Klopp is talking about. And for the likes of Jermaine Jennings to say, I've watched the game and I don't really see where Jurgen Klopp is coming from. Now, I'm hoping to fuck that Jermaine Jennings hasn't watched the game and he's just lying to you. Because if he has watched the fucking game and he's telling you that he didn't see anything in that game where there was an issue, there's serious issues there. And that's where the pundit stuff wrecks my fucking head. But I don't mind Sean Dyche. Like Shawnee said it and even Jamie said it. They're trying to do something to level a playing field, and I have no issue with that. Going down easy, trying to get frees, fine. Being physical, fine. But don't do that sort of stuff, and then for the manager to turn around and say, what's he talking about? And then pundits to turn around and say, what's he talking about? I'll put it to you this way. If a Liverpool player dived in on Harvey Elliott the way he was dived in on the other day, or bundled straight into the back of someone, like he was done the other day, there'd be absolute murder. And I would say a Manchester United player or a Chelsea player, there'd be loads made of it. And that's terrible what's being done. Klopp is pointing out obvious things. He's pointing in facts. Okay, this sounds a bit like Rafa Benitez, that's why. But he's pointing out in facts, and people just keep going on as if he's seeing things, and he's not. But I think Klopp, after what happened last season, I think will be very, very, very wary of the media from here on in, because I think they dirtied that bit with him, and I don't think he'll forget.
Listen, Pete, I'll let you in now, but like for me, there's hard and then there's cowardly and scummy, right? The challenge on Elliott is scummy. It's an attempted attack at his ankles. It's not an attempted attempt at winning the ball. And the only thing that disappoints me a bit is I wish we had some little nasty fuckers in our team. I wish like Tsimikas had a bit of fight about him, but like I'd love somebody to go in and breaking one of those Burnley players up and see how Dyche likes his tactics. Then, like people talk about Burnley and they have a small budget and stuff like that, but there's massive issues with Burnley. They're a horrible team. They may as well be sponsored by some mad right-wing political group, right? Because it's just a horrible, and the sooner they get relegated out of the top flight, the better. In fact, you could probably relegate 10 teams out of the top flight and get rid of most of the pundits, because they'd have no jobs, they'd have no relevance to what's going on with football. Look at Jennings. What was he? He was a wafer. He was basically a human wafer. If he got wet, he fell apart, right? Like he wasn't even, with ginger nuts, when you dunk a ginger nut in tea, it takes forever for them to break off, right? He was the equivalent of taking one of those wafers that you make an ice cream out of and dipping that in tea and it just fall apart immediately. The fella had no rigidity to him at all. Murphy, seeing that there's people retweeting these, but people give air to these things. It's all about clickbait. There's no such thing as media anymore. There's no such thing as news. Everything is just clickbait. So the problem that Klopp has is that he's still treating it like he's used to thinking that people cared about stories and cared about the opinions and cared about having interest in what somebody has in reality to say. When all they want is a soundbite. They want a 20-second soundbite to throw on Sky Sports News, to throw on the front of a cover for the next game coming up. Just to throw on there. It's not about what happened, what's saying. Think about all the news headlines that come out from a press conference where Klopp says, I'm happy with the squad and it'll take something special to come in. Not say it won't happen with this. All you get is Klopp says no signings. That's what you hear, right? And then you hear is, I'm happy with the squad. Klopp says no signings, happy with squad. right? That's all you get. People don't listen to what's going on. There's no reporting. There's no real journalism anymore. There's no journalism in the world in the majority of things. They're all just mouthpieces for somebody who wants to say whatever they want. So when I think about Klopp against the media, I would have loved to see. I'm getting to the point where let's have these celebrity fights. You know, what's those fellas, bogies, the lads who are pretending boxies that are at the moment? What's the thing, Logan Baird or whatever his name is? They just to make you up lads who think they're hard shots and they're getting in, and one fought against Floyd Mayweather there, and Mayweather was running out with his arm tied behind his back, and he's just doing this like this, such a man, and he thought he did well by not getting knocked out. Right, let's just have these fights at Christmas time instead of having like fixtures across Christmas. Let's have celebrity manager fights between the different managers and just have a scrap for a couple of weeks instead of football, and we could have them on prime time and they can say whatever they want. I'd love to see Dyke against Klopp. I'd love to see Dyke against Klopp in a ring or a UFC. They'll go on no holds barred because Klopp's got his eyes done now, so he'd be much better. Like he could go straight. He'd go straight for the ginger beard and Dyke, and then grab his hair and all that type. Give him now a knuckle duster across the top of his head and twist him up. I can't be having it. Yeah, Pete, say something. Say something about the media. I can't wait to see where you go with this.
No, I'm not going anywhere with Burnley. To be honest with you, I'm not going to talk about what I've been to Burnley. I've been to watch a few games up there. It wasn't a pleasant experience. But what I will say is the British media, they love an underdog, and they love, as Gav made the point earlier on when Klopp came over, you know, they love this plucky attitude because let's face it, nobody really expected them to be successful because who was this, you know, bloody German foreigner who had aspirations? He did a kind of okay with Dortmund, but Bayern Munich put him in his place. In the end, he was nearly relegated with Dortmund. Well, finished 14th, I think, with them. So he's going to come over. He's going to be everybody's pal, but he's going to do nothing, you know. So, and then as soon as he did something, sometimes the narrative changes. You know, he's all of a sudden he needs to be put in his place. So what better than to allow someone like Sean Dyche or Sam Allardyce or one of the true Brits, you know, to send 8 or 9 of his lads numbered 1 to 11, as was noted on Saturday, because
they loved it. That was like that would be feeding them all season.
Everybody loves to talk about the good old days, even though the good old days were very, very dark. But anyway, I mean, we witnessed 90 minutes of tackles. You know, if you want to talk them, fellas going through fellas, and then all of a sudden, you know, it's if you can't take the good old British style of football, well then you can't take it. So kind of bore off to the next thing, and then you go and watch Match of the Day or whatever if you haven't watched it live, and you expect people to have watched the game 1 minute to 96 minutes, and of course they haven't. And I think Match of the Day itself as an institution is crumbling to its knees if it hasn't before, because it has been exposed, and it was written in the Guardian the next day that, you know, perhaps it's time to bin this off. And why? Because the guys are clearly not paying attention to what's going on the pitch. It's exactly as you said, Phil, then a little bit later on. Nobody's interested in talking about what happened. They're interested, a bit like TalkSport, people like that. They're interested in who's watching us talk about this and what kind of reaction can we get immediately, regardless of what we say. Everybody's opinion comes with a price. I mean, there's guys out there who, I won't name them, but there's guys who are just saying things just for reaction. I mean, I call me naive, but I prefer to actually even be wrong, you know, wrong and wrong again, but to have an opinion, not for somebody to feed your opinion in your ear, because maybe 80,000 people from Bognor Regis will ring in outraged at what you've just said. And it's just not a reflection. I mean, what was said in the media in the immediate aftermath of the game bore no relevance to what happened in the game. I mean, I don't care if we won the game, but we could have easily had 3 or 4. I think the agenda is, if Klopp goes on and moans about injuries, the media know that they've got him, because they're going to say, oh yeah, that was the excuse last year, your injuries. So they know you're kind of snookered, you know?
But Pete, is there not like a dichotomy happening here between some fans that, like, in the majority, younger fans don't pay attention to punditry, don't watch post-match analysis, because the post-match analysis
you don't watch the game.
Yeah, but they're a lot more exposed, Phil, because younger people are on social media. And
they're watching the game.
It doesn't matter if they watch pundits. It's on their timeline. And there's more of an impact on the timeline than it is sitting in the gaff watching on the telly. Because when they're sitting in the gaff watching on the telly, they're probably on their phone. You know what I mean? While they're watching. Whereas when it comes up on their phone, they're like, oh, what did Andy Goldstein say today? Or what did such and such say today? And listen, it's often a bit of a tangent about pundits and all, and it's another day's conversation.
No,
I just think that Klopp, there's a line being crossed now with Klopp on the media for me.
Yeah.
And I think it's got to the stage now where regardless of what he says, they're going to spin it. And even if he points out hard facts, they're going to spin it. And even by pointing out hard facts, they're going to go, oh, look at him going off and getting the hard facts. It means that he's annoyed. You know, sort of way. So he can't win now. And I think Klopp will be, I think a line's being crossed. I think you'll see Klopp not be cold with them, but I think he'll be a lot more straight down the line with them now. As
it's your topic, I want to come back. The reason why Ferguson got so much respect in the end was because he basically told the BBC to fuck off, right? He basically said, I'm not doing any interviews for you. I'll do the minimum I have to do at press conferences. And kicked people out of press conferences when he didn't want them there.
Banned them from Old Trafford.
Yeah. Right. I'm not saying, because I don't think it's in his personality. I don't think he's like that at all, right? But I'd love to see Klopp do that. I'd love to see him start taking that type of line. Refuse to do interviews. Send out Mighty Red to do the post-match interview with Des Kelly instead, right? And just say, no, fuck you. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're going to treat me like some type of clown, I'll give you a circus.
I think.
I'm sure he has had that
what?
conversation.
Yeah, but you know what? I think he's cleverer than that. I think he knows. I think he knows that like that just will amplify things even more. I think Gav is right. I think you might even see him be cold with the media. I think I think last year burned him. I think like the Des Kelly stuff. He was obviously having a bad time personally with what happened with his mother and stuff like that. But I think he's too cute, Phil, to start banning journalists and sending Pep Linders out and everything like that, because he knows it'll just amplify everything. And he kind of wants to deflect. Well, he wants to take it on himself rather than start deflecting it onto the whole club and the players and how things, because like what you all have said there, like it's all sound bites, it's media spin, it's Klopp's not doing the interviews, what's going on? It'd be on fucking Sky Sports News every day for a fucking fortnight.
When they decide,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, when they decide that they want to annoy you, there's no way you can get around it, because no matter what you say, they will find a way of saying, oh look, he's doing that because, and he's doing that because, and yeah, he might have 4 or 5 actual video footage of something that's happened in the game to prove his point. Why did he go and look for the video footage? Look at him. He's going and looking for video footage. You know, we're affecting him. We're affecting him that much that he's going and doing this. So there's a tipping point, and when they decide that they're going to annoy you and spin everything, they're going to do it, and nobody can stop them. And I think they're very, very close to that stage with Jurgen Klopp, and he's a clever man. You know, he will get more generic as he goes along with his answers, and he won't like it. And somebody said in the chat there, just give generic answers and put the rest of your message out across club social media. And I think you're starting to see that. You know, I really do. I think you're starting to see that already, and I'm all for it, because I don't even know how he interacts with them. I know it's contractual.
The only thing I'll say is, and it reminds me a lot of Wenger, the longer you are in England, the less respect the media appears to have for a manager, right? Look at Wenger, first 10 years of his tenure when he's winning stuff for Arsenal, they are more or less hanging on every word. As soon as it starts to go wrong, they're like piranhas. They basically are like piranhas, and if they smell the blood in the water, they're going to attack the corpse and see what they can get over, right? Because they love chasing anyone out of the job. They love it. They absolutely love chasing somebody out of the job.
Anyone not British or English, to be honest with you.
It's not even that, Pete. It's not even that.
Because they turned on. They turned on Lampard
to their side of the table. Do you know what
I mean? Hang on, Pete. Go on.
They'll deal with anybody. It doesn't matter. You know, they lynched Sam Allardyce. Now I'm not saying he didn't deserve it, but they lynched him. You know what I mean? And then the only people kind of defending. No, this is what I'm saying. You were saying if it's not English. You know what I mean? I'm giving you English people.
Yeah, but then they bring Sam to their side of the table to do the job with them. Do you know what I mean?
Where's Sam doing the job with them?
At the World Cups, because they need.
You're right. You're actually spot on there, Pete. Yeah.
Yeah, but
they'll bring the English managers over to their side.
But are you telling me if they ran Jurgen Klopp out?
By the way, who negotiated with Middle Eastern owners as a prank he did the ultimate dirty, something that hadn't been done since Don Revie did it in the 1970s.
Sorry, hang on a second. How is it that dirty when you've got Pep Guardiola, who's meant to be the best coach in the world, working for real Middle Eastern guys with human rights violations? You have lads in PSG making up FFP rules and telling the rest of the teams what they can and can't do. There's not Allardyce didn't do anything really that dirty when you consider the reality of what's going on at the top table of football.
He was prepared to leave England to do it. Like
I know, but Pete, I'm with Gav here. It does when they scent blood, they go for it, and it doesn't matter.
And the funny thing is, right? We say for argument's sake, match of the day decide that. Say BT, because BT I think are being the worst at it, right? BT decided, right, Klopp, we're just going to hammer him, regardless of what he does, and every little thing he does, we're going to spin it. Are you telling me, right, that if they ran Jurgen Klopp out of Liverpool, right, in a or part of it, are you telling me that he wouldn't try to get Jurgen Klopp across to their side of the table if a European Championships Cup and or a World Cup and BT had it?
Yeah,
absolutely they would. So it's nothing. It's actually nothing to do with who they are, where they're from, or what side of the table they're on. It's to do with, and somebody says it there, they love to just build them up to shoot them down, right? And that's exactly what it is. They've ran out of love for Klopp, and do you know why they ran out of love for him? Because he went and he done what they thought he would never fucking do. Yeah, right, and take a title back to Liverpool.
That's what I said. It's shiny new thing. He comes in with his nice smile and his baseball caps and his yellow tracksuit, and it'll be great crack watching him fall on his flat in his face and Liverpool doing.
I don't think it's fall flat in his face. I think it's more of a case of he's brilliant for the league, but we'll continue to pat him on the head at the same time. And now they can't pat him on the head, and now it's a case of where do we go with this fella? Because if we keep loving him. The rest of the country are going to say, but look, they won the league. Will you shut the fuck up? And listen, when Liverpool win the league and they get all the adulation, right? Well, I don't know how much adulation they got. They got a lot, right? Not from certain quarters. But when they win the league, right, where do you go with them? The only way is down because there's no traction in loving them anymore. Now, it's the same with Mourinho. Mourinho was the darling of British football. The darling. And then what happened to him? Still is. He is if he turned back up again. But he will be for a year, and then they just turn and they go, right, what time is it? He's 16 months in now. The alarm clock goes off. Let's turn on Mourinho because we know we won't do more than 2.5 years at any club. And that's the way it is. It's one of those things. I think they've got to a tipping point now with Klopp.
Yeah, Gav, you mentioned something earlier, Gav. You mentioned something earlier, Gav, and so did Phil, and it's about putting your interviews out through club social media and all that. Now, I think, I could be wrong in this, I think Man United are trying to do an awful lot more of that and try and get rid of journalists, not get rid of them, but do an awful lot through. They want to become a media company, basically, Manchester United. They want to put out their media. They don't want anyone else involved putting out their media. And like Phil mentioned earlier, automatically, like piranhas, the press turned and said, no, you shouldn't be doing that. Who's going to hold the club accountable if it's their own social media or if it's their own media company putting it out, X, Y, and Z? Because they're afraid it'll be cut out. Jobs will be gone. They'll be cut out. They don't have their say. Like fucking Henry Winter goes on like he's a professional footballer himself. You know what I mean? He's the fucking superstar, and what he says goes, and fucking blah blah blah. They've egos bigger than footballers. These journalists, some of them.
Two things. You have a fella who's an average pundit at best in Gary Neville, who they're decrying as essentially as a social leader, while he's also running some type of money scam at a club 3 levels down in the English leagues, chasing the Glazers out.
I don't know if you can make a statement that he's running a money scam.
He's front ending a team that's having lots of money pushed through them. That's like 15 million times more than anyone else in the league. I think that's a fair thing. As a Salford United, they've managed to come up through all the leagues, and they have a bigger budget than most of the teams in League 2 or League 1 or whatever it is. It's 2 leagues above them, and it's being bankrolled by somebody. I don't know who it is. But
Peter Lim.
Yeah, but hang on. This is the imaginary stuff that goes on. But he's been held up as the bastion of football supporters and to do right in what goes on.
Incredible.
And then you stand up and you look at these people and you say, okay, so people are taking their social narratives of somebody who has a paid interest in working in a media channel. this is why the world is the way it is. Everyone has a bias. Everyone has a paymaster. Everyone has an agenda to sell. And if you're in the media, you're there to sell hits.
Who stands up, by the way,
Gary
Phil,
Neville
and advocates managers get time, and he's sacking managers like it's going out of fashion for Salford. But he'll stand there on Sky going, Solskjaer needs time. This fella needs time. This because it's suiting their narrative. But then he's sacking managers to beat the band.
But Shane, this is a fella who did an interview for a TV channel with a player who's just signed a contract with his club, so that the player could make a plea to be let go by the club and move on somewhere else. Yeah. If Mo Salah came out tomorrow and said, I want to leave Liverpool, Gary Neville will be on the television on Monday Night Football or Tuesday Night Football or Wednesday Night Football, whatever night football they put him on, saying it's a disgrace that Mo Salah did an interview, unless it was with him. Unless it was with Gary Neville. With Gary Neville, he'd be the best player in the world. But it's a disgrace that he's out there and he's telling people that he wants to leave the club and it should be up to the club to let him go. Look beyond it. I pay no attention to pundits. It's very hard to read even newspapers anymore because most of it's just regurgitation. There's so much more insight into football that used to be football journalism 5-10 years ago. Now in independent blogs and sites and things like that you get more of it. That I just don't see the point. Like maybe it's just being more curmudgeonly as I'm getting older and I'm heading towards my 50s, right? And it's just like I don't need to watch these Muppets. I get more insight from people online. Why would I want to watch a Danny Murphy? What is he? Do you know what I mean? He's not even what he did nothing. Why would I want to watch a Jermaine Jenas? What's he? He's a nothing. Why do I want to watch some other ball bloke, a Millie Danny or something, some fella that played for Leeds when they were rubbish? Why? Who is he? You know what I mean? So this goes back to Gary Neville. Great. He went to Valencia. His attempt at management failed miserably. You've got Jamie Carragher, hadn't got the balls to try it in management. Like, who are they to make judgments on what's going on or to give us the insights into what's going on into modern day football? Like, if you want true insights, go and get somebody that worked under Guardiola. Go and get somebody from Germany who can speak fluent English and knows Klopp's methods and tactics and gives you true insight. That's what you want to see. But nobody's interested in that. They want the sound bites. They just want people who look good in front of me. Jamie Redknapp is still employed. Jamie Redknapp hasn't said anything relevant since he did an interview as Liverpool captain in 1995. Right? That's how long it is since Jamie Redknapp had anything that made any sense to anyone ever, right? So, like, that's what you're looking back on. He should have stuck to what was that game that he played with James Corden and the lads instead. Right? The league it around, whatever. Yeah,
Aaron says,
it is a league. It is a league alone.
Did you hear Neville tonight already making excuses for Man United? Yeah, well, like last week he was telling you United were great, and this week they should sign Harry Kane, spend 200 more million quid, in order to compete. But of course, the Super League is the one that's ruining everything. But I think we're going to do a big thing on that on Wednesday night. I know that we're going to do a big thing on that.
What's that?
No, it's week-to-week principles.
On the Monday Night Football tonight, there was a bit of Gary Neville. Listen, we'll get into it on Wednesday. Yeah.
One of the rare times that Carragher actually had him on toast in the debate. Neville was just kind of sitting there with his mouth open. It was actually good to see.
There's nothing you could do, Davo. It's week-to-week principles. 2 weeks ago, he's saying Glazer's out. This week they spend a couple of 100 million. You know, it's week-to-week principles.
And talk about spending a couple of 100 million with a couple of days to go. Let's move on to our third topic there, Gav, in terms of what we have, right? Because I'm getting annoyed here. I can feel my spine prickling here, right? So, Peter, it's a pity you didn't clean your... Pity you didn't clean your webcam tonight because it looks like that you've got a dose of mount. It's like you've got, and don't try cleaning it with your tongue.
No, don't.
That doesn't work. It makes it worse, right? This is like when you tell a kid, clean the camera there.
Right? The light in here is terrible.
Pete, you want to pose the question: should LFC spend any money in this transfer window? Correct?
Yep, that is correct. For me, it's a rhetorical question, and let me put it to you straight. You know, we see all of the social media activity. Liverpool should buy Pele, Maradona, Virgil van Mbappe, whoever, But for me, I look at Alisson, first 11, Trent, Robbo, Van Dijk, Matip, Fabinho, Thiago, Henderson, Salah, Jota, Mane. Second 11, Kelleher, Tsimikas, Nico Williams, Gomez, Konate, Milner, Jones, Keita, Elliott, Firmino, Minamino. That's 22 top players. Then you've got, not even getting into that, Origi, who, doesn't seem to ever want to go. Reece Williams, who did a job for us last year. Oxlade-Chamberlain, who by all accounts is a nearly 40 million quid player. Nathaniel Phillips, who did very well for us last year. Adrian, Benny Woodburn has gone out. Kyle Gordon. We're linked with players like unrealistic.
Where's Cock Woodburn gone? Is he gone?
On the Hearts.
He's gone to Hearts tonight, yeah, just for 1 year loan. We're linked with exactly. We're linked with unrealistically with players like Mbappe, Haaland, Chiesa, Frank Kessie, and we're linked realistically with people like Sarr, Doku, Renato Sanchez, Bernardi, Salninguez.
Is Chris just texting you here at the moment? Is it? It's like everything I've said this summer.
No, the point I'm making, and not a lot of people are going to agree with me. I don't think that we should sign anybody. And I tell you, we've signed Konate. We've got 6 fantastic options in midfield. We've got a number of centre halves who could go in there and do the job. We're okay at fullback. I can't see anybody that's going to come in and improve upon what we've got in the final tour, to be quite honest with you. With the emergence of young Elliott, with Shaqiri going out the window, all these contracts being renewed, I honestly don't want to see any shiny new things coming in before next Friday night or before the deadline, because it's just, for me, we've got something that we didn't have last year when we were absolutely crippled with injuries in an unprecedented year. I don't see any of these and big names that were being connected with, adding anything. Tonight we were hooked up with this Bernardi, who's not a bad player. He's a leader, 27 years of age. But again, it's kind of more of what we've already got. I don't see any need to make any changes. All the shiny new change merchants out there, for me, are just, don't get me wrong, it's great playing, FIFA and all and making all these signings. But who do we, why should we sign anybody? I think we're in a fantastic, all the lads are fit. Most of the dead wood has gone out the door. Most of the lads that were realistically not going to get a sniff of being in and around the team. We've even got a cup side. In that second 11 that I just named, for me, we could have a couple of cup runs, which is something we haven't had for a couple of years. I don't see why shiny new things, as you say, Phil, is going to make us any different, any more competitive. I think lock it down now. Get the contract, Henderson's contract across the line, Mohamed Salah's contract across the line. Maybe look at new deals for Robbo, and I don't know who else is outstanding. But leave things the way they are. In my view, I think things have come to. Origi will go, maybe, hopefully he does. But if he doesn't, so what? I think
Pete,
we're all right.
Do you know that we are now the same amount of years away from 1980 as 1939 was from 1980? Is that mental?
I know what you're saying. It's a squad game and things, but I've just named 29 players. No,
I'm just saying, like, we're the same amount of years away from 1980 as 1939 was from 1980.
Yeah. Which is, that's when you and I really cared about football. Not 1980. We're not that old. 1990 was when you and I really cared about football.
Well, I think that's mental. And on that topic, Gav, because I'm thinking of Neville Chamberlain, and he was prime minister around that time, right? So I'm just wandering around here, and Pete's mentioning that we've got the best squad in world football.
No,
right?
I didn't say that. See, this is Fox News stuff. Somebody in the chat just said that Pete said we're going to win 4 trophies. I never said. I said we can have a realistic cup run in the.
We've already won one.
And now you're saying we've got the best. Fox News are on to you, Phil. They've got your CV. They want you to have the interview tomorrow. Anti-vax.
Well,
Phil's on his way.
That's as anyone would well know on Fox News. Make sure that you're anti-vax on television and getting vaccinated off air. Gav, as Pete reckons that we have the best squad in world football, not just in England. For you, do we need to spend, or should we spend at this stage? Do we need to get out there and get into Duns for the summer sale? Because it's always this time of year. It's always good to pick up a pair of shorts or a vest top that you can keep in the wardrobe till next year. Once you keep it neutral enough, because fashion changes. There's no point getting those prints on your vests.
You're on mute.
That's the best thing you said all night, Gav. Thanks.
Sorry, I categorically disagree with Pete.
Okay. You want shiny new things?
No, I don't want shiny. The whole shiny new things is when there's people running around wanting every player that they fucking know in the world. I want a more reliable squad, and I want a more robust squad, and I want a more quality squad. All right, and to do that, and I've said this from the very first day of the fucking transfer, the day the season ended, I thought we needed 3. I thought we needed a centre back, which we've done. Absolutely fine with that. I definitely think we need a midfielder, and I definitely think we need a forward. And the reason being, I said it last night on last night's show. To find a forward that you can bring in, you either go massive, you either go Haaland, or you go Mbappe, or even that guy Vlahovic, or you do something along them lines. And I said this last night. Or you try find the right signing that will come in, help the squad, okay, be enough quality to be back up to the 4 lads that you have there, all right, or be involved with them 4 lads that you have there, but be somebody that they know in 18 months' time the chance of those 3, and when I talk to them 3, I mean Firmino, Mane, and Salah, they all won't be there. So they want to take on the mantle then and become, the player, the main man in a year, 18 months' time, whatever it might be, and it's difficult. It's a difficult sign, I think, up front. Midfield is a no-brainer. And what I mean by that is, if you go on past form, right? If you go on past form with us and the midfielders we have and the reliability that they have, we need another midfielder, all right? Because if Oxlade-Chamberlain and Keita and even Henderson, right, miss 50% of the games that they missed last season, we are leaving ourselves with 4 or 5 players there, which one is 36, one is 18, one is 20, still finding his way, one is Thiago, one is Fabinho, okay? And if we're looking to be successful, win a league, win a Champions League, whatever it might be, okay, we need more than that. Because it's very hard to turn around to them 4 players and go, listen, them lads are going to be in and out, they're going to miss this and they're going to miss that, and we're relying on you to be there and be there, mentally and physically, to be there for us for possibly 60 games in the season. So 100% I think we need a midfielder. And that's not me shouting from rooftops going, FSG are fucking this and, they should do this and we should do that. No, I'm not screaming and shouting. I said it the other day, if you lock it down now and we go for it, stay fit, get a bit of luck, I think we'll win the league. I've said that. But it doesn't really go like that, Pete. It usually goes where you get injuries and you get suspensions and you get a lack of form. Mane last season had a huge lack of form. He started okay this season. Great. Firmino was the same. We don't know what way it's going to happen. So anything could happen to Salah. Right? And I know people would say the AFCON, I think it's only 2 games if he goes to the AFCON, but anything can happen to him. And I think if you're looking at, like, Shaqiri's gone, I don't even know whether he was a midfielder or forward for us, because I didn't really think he suited us either way. He was good, but he didn't suit us. If Origi goes, we're left with them 4 forwards. Now, if one of them gets an injury and or gets a lack of form, we are literally pinning ourselves on 3 forwards, Pete, right? And what we're looking at 60 game season if we want to go and win.
Do you not count do you count Elliot as a forward?
No.
Or just
no.
Yeah,
no.
Because I think he counts himself as
he may do, but he's playing in midfield. And
that's fair.
And he was really good on Saturday, and I'd love to see him play next Saturday if he gets a game and play really well again. But at the end of the day,
he played his season in Salah's position at Blackburn. He played the whole season, so I think he can play there.
He can do there. But what I'm saying to you is that I think it's unfair to ask an 18-year-old, no matter how good he is, to shoulder Liverpool's forward line when you're going for what you think you're going for. And that's where I think, if it was me, come the 31st of August, I would love to have a midfielder and a forward in. I admit the forward one is really difficult. I think it's difficult. But I think the midfielder is a bit easier to do. And if you do that, I think we go from being with a great chance to being able to suck up them injuries and suck up that loss of form a lot better than what we can do now. And I think that's the way I look at it. I don't look at it as going, we've only signed 1, that doesn't fucking count because these signed 3. You know what I mean? There's teams out there signing. Look at Arsenal Football Club. Like, I can't wait for Wednesday, because we do a thing on Wednesday where we do winners and losers. And I done Arsenal last week, and I'm doing them a fucking again this week because they're pathetic. And they've spent 150 million quid, and I don't know who they spent it on. I really don't. You know what I mean? So
spent it on your man's video in his car, and if you're retweeting that, you're as big him up as he is.
Yeah, man, yeah, he's mental. But I just think looking at it realistically, without going into finances and without going into what should be done and is Klopp backed and is Klopp happy, and push all that to the side.
None of that nonsense. Yeah, that's not where
me
I'm
looking
from.
at this squad says to me, I think we're a bit lighter right back, but we might be able to get away with it. I think midfield wise, we've loads of numbers. But when you look at the factors around a 36-year-old, an 18-year-old, a 20-year-old, a midfielder and a captain that has had injury problems, then you're down. You're down to bones then. You really are if something happens. And it has happened to us. And there's more of a chance of a drop of form and injuries and niggles at the age these players are at. And I think we need more insurance.
Shane, which side of the fence do you sit upon? Or do you rest upon the middle of the fence and balance carefully so as not to hurt yourself?
Giving Shawnee a run for his money on the fence, sitting champion.
Yeah, 3 times Leinster champion in a row.
Listen,
that's fantastic.
Listen, I think
All Ireland as well, by the way. He won it in Leitrim.
Fences I dodge up there.
I would be edging towards Gav, to be honest with you, just in the sense that I think midfield will be the one where it happens. I don't think Origi's going to go, and I think he's going to stay. And to be honest with you, more luck to him if he wants to stay and take us down. As Keith said last night, the Fatback 4 contracts work both ways. The club tied him down for a contract, so if he wants to stay and take us down, listen, I think the only way you'd get him out of that is if Klopp turned around and said to him, listen, we're not going to register you in the league squad, which I don't think is going to happen because I don't think Klopp is that type of bloke. But listen, I think midfield would be the one where I would be a little bit worried. But we're basically after losing a bulletproof midfielder that can play 60 games a season. Who's gone? Now, Gav has already gone into the ins and outs about different lads' injury records and whatnot. But listen, if it was me, listen, we are going to lose players in the AFCON, and it is only 2 league games. But listen, who's to say the way the season's panned out, it could be a high number again. They could be 2 league games if you drop points that might do you. That might do you for a league win. So, listen, earlier on the summer, I think the likes of Joyce and the Liverpool journalists were kind of saying the club are comfortable with things going late into the window. A lot, James Pearce said the other day, a lot was up in the air due to outgoings. The fact that Shaq is gone, they're starting to get rid of the kind of players that they want to trim the squad down and not have a bloated. I know a lot of that can be on loan. Woodbourne's gone on loan. Obviously, Shaq is gone. That young lad Clarkson has gone on loan to Blackburn. So, with the fact Shaq was gone, I don't want to get into the home ground. I know there's issues over that. Shaq is a non-home ground, so there's a space there now. I could see Minamino probably going out on loan somewhere, maybe. But I agree with Gav. I think the front player is very difficult to do. I don't think Origi's going to go, and I think it would be midfield.
Shane, can I ask you a question, Shane and Gav? It is now, almost September. Most sides, good sides in the
world. Why fucking invisible?
Sorry, Phil. No, because you're going to come in and weigh in on this, Phil. Actually, no, probably best man to ask.
Probably
Phil.
blame Britain on it. Go on.
It's nearly September, and most decent sides are finished their pre-season and they're into the league games. Who decent midfielder, decent centre forward who can compete immediately is going to play Russian roulette with their career and just jump ship from the club that they're at and be able to make a difference. Honestly, at this stage,
I think midfield wise, I think there's a lot more options out there. Sol Niguez from Atletico is being linked. The talk now is that Liverpool aren't in. They don't want to pay his wages.
You want a serious amount,
$250,000 a week or something he's looking for, and I think Chelsea and United may be still in talks. Yves Bissouma is another one that's being mentioned, and Yves Bissouma is doing really well at Brighton. And I'm not saying sign Yves Bissouma. I don't really have an opinion on him. I think he's a good. I don't really have an opinion on him signing for Liverpool. I don't know whether it's a good or a great thing. I'm not really sure, but he has experience in the Premier League, and he will be coming in and knowing, he a bit like the forward thing. He's coming in and saying to himself, "I'm young, athletic, strong, fit, and I can make my way in this team." And when the likes of in a year or two time or 18 months time, when Henderson starts to slow down or Thiago starts, Yves Bissouma is looking at going, "Look, I'm more than willing to take 18 months here learning how Klopp works in order to get there."
Brighton have a say in this as well. Brighton are saying our season has already started. We're 2 games in. This is our best player, and let's be under no illusions here. He is their best player. So we want £70 million for this player now. to let him go, because they will sink like a stone without him, and because they won't be able to replace him. So that's, in my opinion, that's him out the window till at least January. So he's not realistic. Saul Niguez wants much more money than Wijnaldum wanted to stay. Now he's a couple of years younger, but this is a fella that will want to come in, Gav, and he will want to play unquestionably. And I don't know if we're going to be able to give him that at this stage. It might disrupt things. I just worry that. My point is, listen, I'd love both to come in to be free, but I just don't know with the law, the way things are.
Someone typed Adama there. Do they mean Adama Traore?
Yeah. I know you.
You'd be better off getting a traffic cone, right, on a rope.
It's actually Joe Walsh's
and getting Linders just to throw the traffic cone up and down the wing for the effectiveness that fella has. I think he's got 3 goals ever in his whole career and 1.5 assists. And those assists are bringing a fella into the toilet before a game once. Yeah, honestly.
I honestly think that the Origi one is mad, because I think Klopp has shown him, like, he was on the bench against Norwich. Was he on the bench against Burnley? I'm not too sure. But not putting them on. Not interested. Yeah. Not putting them on. Putting them into nearly an afterthought in pre-season, that sort of way. And maybe Origi wants to just stay there and go, look, I signed a 4-year deal in 2019. I'm staying for 2 more years. I get 10 million somewhere in 2 years' time, and I'm happy. He may do that. But it'd be very interesting to see, with Shaqiri gone, because the whole thing was about, non-homegrown, can we do this, can we do that? It'd be very interesting to see if Origi goes, what Liverpool do. Because if Liverpool don't do something, if Origi goes, it would tell you that they weren't intending on doing anything. Their intention, and it does go back. It does go back to comments attributed to FSG and stuff, and hierarchy in the club. Sorry, before where it was basically we need to get the Champions League because this will be a huge difference to us going into the summer. And it looks, and the contract stuff I get, but it'd be interesting to see if he goes and nothing happens then.
Okay, can I give you my take on it? Because people are obsessed now with getting somebody in that can strengthen the squad. Fuck strengthen the squad. I want people in that strengthens the first 11. So when you're looking at it, you can clearly say they are better than what we have, right? Mm-hmm. So I can understand the difficulty that Klopp has, given that he's only going to be here till 2024. Two problems he has. One, if he's not going to be here past 2024 and he feels the bone of the squad will get him through to then, I know this sounds terrible and you wouldn't imagine it, but at the same time, what is his real concern? All he's concerned about was winning and winning now. And he was in the German media. He gave an interview to German media saying that he is taking a year off after 2024 and he's not interested in talking about contract extensions and stuff like that, right? So he seems pretty fixed his mind when he wants it. And he's said it a good few interviews now that he's finishing, or feels like that he'll finish with Liverpool in 2024, right? Which gives him, I think, 9.5 years with the club in terms of being there as a manager, right? And if you look at all our contracts or extensions that we put in, I think isn't what's Van Dijk is out to 2026, is it? The extent 2025. So they're all in around this 2024 time period. That falls inside with the rates that they have. But in my head, if we're signing somebody, we replace the fellas, not the fellas on the bench, but the fellas on the pitch. So when we talk about our midfield, I feel that we need to sign 2 midfielders this window, and I always felt that we needed to sign 2 midfielders this window, not the forwards but the midfielders, because if you look at our engine room, we have Hendo who's 30 plus, you have Thiago who's 30 and is going to be 30 plus this season, we have Milner who's 36, and it echoes to what Gav was saying, and then you've got Keita who's been unreliable through injuries, and you've got a range of young kids who have potential. Okay. So in my head, we needed a starting midfielder to replace the fact that we lost a starting midfielder in Gini Wijnaldum, right? And I felt that we needed that. Plus, we needed the Hendo heir apparent. I don't see that in the squad. I don't see it in the makeup of the midfielders that we have. And there's been mentions, but the guy that I've always thought that would be a natural in terms of going there and is at the right time to throw a 25, 30 million pound bid and get him is Gravenberch at Ajax. If we're talking about a player that I want to come in that's going to be ready to fill the Hendo position.
Yeah, but you just said 2 minutes ago you don't give a shit about the squad. You want people to come in and better the first team. He's not playing ahead of Henderson.
At the same time, Gav, Henderson's only going to play about 20, 22 games this season.
Yeah, but he still doesn't get in the side.
But I still think that Gravenberch has enough about him to get in that first 11. And
so
the other part...
You think Gravenberch signs from Ajax After the statement you made 2 minutes ago that you don't give a
Yep.
shit about the squad, you want players that are better
I
than
think-
their first
I
11.
think- I think
Gravenberch
he
is better than
I
their
think-
first 11.
He's better than some of the midfielders in our first 11. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you're asking my opinion, and that's I'm giving it to you.
No, that's what I'm saying. Okay.
Listen, just to finish up, and I think Pete was going back saying, "Listen, it's September, or it's getting to September now. The window's closed and stuff like that." I just think that it's probably a situation, looking at it from the outside, that Klopp is probably, if the window's shut tomorrow and we have what we have, I think Klopp is happy to go with that and say, right, if these lads stay fit, I'm confident we can win a league or win a Champions League. On the flip side of that, I also think he's probably thinking, they obviously have, listen, we all know Michael Edwards, very, very good at his job. They have lists of players. Now, as things go on and people start getting restless, that have contract situations at club, we all know how it works, the business, particularly pandemic-wise, clubs are struggling for money. People become available. Now, if somebody becomes available, all things coming out, like I mentioned earlier, from Joyce and James Pearce and stuff like that, was Liverpool are prepared to keep that powder dry to lighten the window and to see what kind of falls from a tree. If something drops onto the lap that the club can get done and this player ticks all the boxes, bang, they'll do it. And if it doesn't, then I think Klopp is probably going to say, gamble and say, right, listen, all these boys stay fit. I think we can win a league or win a Champions League. And I think that's basically where the club are at the minute. Me,
and look, again, there's no right or wrong answers, but when it comes back to Pete's overall point in terms of should we spend, yes, and I think an overall point that I think myself, Shane, and Gav would agree on, and Pete, I think you'd agree with this, is that standing still in football is as bad as going backwards. Because ultimately, if you stand still, you will eventually have to replace more than replacing one or two. And I will say one thing about United under Ferguson. They were very good at doing 1 to 2 signings each year. So as they never had to do an overhaul. I think the only real overhaul that happened was when they brought through all the kids in that famous whatever team it was, or whatever year that was.
93-94, yeah.
After that, it was constant evolution, not revolution. It was constant evolution. And they got to a point they could see, well, this is the way we want to go to. We'll bring in 1 now, 2 now, 1 now. And then suddenly the core of your team moves and moves in time. And normally what it is, Jonathan makes, Poch and Spurs did still, exactly. So I completely back Klopp. I completely back Edwards. And people out there go on about Klopp working miracles with this side, with this squad, with these players. And if it wasn't for Klopp, it wouldn't happen. It's not. It's the whole thing. It's all the coaches. It's that doesn't happen just because one fella is a genius. All those players arrived there because of a combined recruitment effort. And if we truly believe and back this club and believe in what they're doing, then we've got to believe in the system. And we can't, I think they've signed Canasi because they're looking at, well, what happens when we need to move something around? My only question that I have, and that's the only question I have, is should we look to accelerate that given what we have to do when you look at the age group of those midfielders? And I think Gav has made the most prudent points when it comes to this. And we may disagree on how to get there. But when you have 3 to 4 of your 6 squad midfielders that you mentioned, Pete, all being 30 plus, or with injury marks or injury reliability questions over them, that's a gamble. And we know they've taken gambles in previous years, and up until last year, it paid off. We won the league, won the Champions League. But going in, having had such a bad gamble last year, you're gambling that you don't have the same impact this year. And all it takes is Henderson to get a 12-week injury, Keita to get a 14-week injury, Thiago to pick up something that takes him out 6 weeks, and suddenly your midfield. And we know Fabinho often misses 4 to 6 weeks of a season, which he has ever since he was here.
Also COVID issues as well. You don't even have to be injured.
All of a sudden, your midfield is Milner, Curtis Jones, and Harvey Elliott going into an awful lot of games. And if you think of what happened when we were trying to hold up the back end, it's not the centre of your midfield is where your engine room is. It won't give the freedom for Trent to get on and play the way he's been playing. It won't give the freedom for Tsimikas to be able to develop the way he is, or Robbo to come back in and do what he always does. And then it'll limit the opportunities for the front three that's up front. So in my head, people are worried about the centre forward, and should we sign Mbappe, and should we sign Haaland, and should we sign this, and should we sign that? If your engine is clogged up because your DPF filter is full of shit fuel, right? Your turbo's not going to work. And at this moment in time, we aren't getting the DPF cleaned. And that's my biggest worry as we go into this season and until the end of next season.
It'll be interesting to see what happens between now and the end of the week. I mean, the one thing that he has got a habit of, or the club has got a habit of, is I always go back to the Fabinho deal. Is like, where did that come from? And that's arguably one of the most, after Virgil van Dijk and the goalkeeper, that's the most important sign the club has made.
This is what I'm saying. Like, we don't know if there is deals in the pipeline and lined up and 85% there, but they're waiting on a Shaqiri and an Origi to go so they can do that in. I think Minamino is going to end up being unfortunate if they need to move him out on loan to bring somebody in. I think that might happen. Kate Fagan saying stop making excuses. We haven't made any excuses, Kate. We've just discussed exactly what's going on. And
look, but Gav, he's talking about like we can't have players and we can barely spend a fucking penny. Well, like Saul was mentioned there, right? Saul Niguez from Atletico, right? Say the club do want to bring him in, and like what P said, he's on 250,000 a week. That's what the club are going to offer Mo Salah to become that highest paid player and try and sign a new deal. And I'm sure there's going to be bonuses and everything sweeteners to try and get Salah to sign that deal when he could probably go to PSG and get 400. So, like, you can't just start bringing people in and fucking up wage structures on a whim because you have no money there.
Chelsea are trying to do a deal with him on loan to split the wages with Atletico Madrid. That's what they're trying to do. He's on so much money.
And Atletico want rid because of his wages. Like I mentioned earlier on about, listen, players can become available because due to the pandemic, you look at Emi Martinez going to Aston Villa last year. Arsenal didn't really want to let him go. Villa came in 40 million. Oh, jeez, he's arguably our number 2. We let him go. Wrong decision, obviously. But like Arsenal. You can't just. I'm not going to. You're not going. Listen, there's a wage structure to the club, and listen, I wouldn't be bragging if I saw for Mo Salah, absolutely.
Also, can I just on that, Shane, and I think Gav, it's also a good point that, and we can move on to the next bit, right? Jurgen Klopp has repeatedly said over the summertime, we have a system and we have a method at this club, and we aren't like other clubs. He keeps saying this. He keeps telling. I'm sure he has a pain in his arse listening to people like signing players, and you can see the way he's doing. He says, "We aren't the Manchester City. We aren't the PSG. We aren't the Manchester United. We have a way and a means to do it. So either get on board or fuck off." I know he hasn't said that last bit, but he may as well say it because he's had a go at fans on the social media. He's had a go at people moaning about. Sorry, Shane, what is it?
No, it's in the same situation. Like what you were talking about, David system is in the same situation with the U players. Liverpool don't pay any scandalous fucking money to U players.
Dele Alli
there's a cap on it.
Dele Alli is the case in point. Dele Alli wanted £5,000 a week when he was 17 to sign for us from MK Dons, and Liverpool were like, "No, we give you £750 a week, and we'll make you a better player." And we all know. I mean, arguably, I think Dele Alli has missed out on a fantastic career. But other people would argue different,
All I'm saying is actually interestingly, if somebody was saying, is there a player that could you resurrect? Dele Alli has always intrigued me as to where you could, if under the right tutorship, if you could get his head right, he had the raw skill set that, in my mind, would make him an incredible Klopp player because he had the engine, and when he was focusing on his football about 2 or 3 seasons ago when they got that run to the Champions League final, he was a wonderful looking player. Right, lads, last topic. It's my topic. My topic. Move it on, Gav. This is why I'm the host. Right, boys. Having discussed our squads, having discussed the clubs and the medias, having discussed why Trent is a generational talent. What for you? We normally do this at the start of each season after we get a feel of what it is. But what is it for you guys that constitutes a good season, right? I have a baseline that I always set each year that constitutes an acceptable season, and I'm going to use that as our baseline tonight, right? So in my head, quarterfinals of the Champions League, top 4 is the minimum acceptable standard for this Liverpool team, okay? And that's allowing for injuries across the course of the season and a bigger injury tally than normal, which is what we had last season. And we still managed to finish 3rd and get to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. So for me, that's the minimum acceptable level that we should be getting as it. But what takes that acceptable to good and then great? So, Gav, I'm going to start with you. For you, what is it? What is it that is what defines a successful 21-22 for Liverpool Football Club?
A league title. No fucking about. I'm not going in for this top 4 or anything like that. A league title is, for me, I think we owe it to ourselves to go and win a league title. I think we were brilliant the year we won it. And it wasn't ruined on us because of COVID, but it took a lot away. It took an edge off it. And it didn't give us the chance to show people we were champions. You know, the sort of way, like, no one in grounds and all this. And look, it's a global pandemic. You can't give out about it. But I think, and not only that, I think what's happened with us last season with regards to injuries and whatever else has gone on, personal issues, you know, and personal tragedies around Alisson and Klopp in particular, I think it hurts the squad. I think they were poor at times, don't get me wrong. They were really good up to the 27th of December and then they were poor. But I think physically and mentally they were drained, and it showed for a period of time right up until probably March, and then they got it going again with players coming back and different things. And Shawnee said it last night. He says, I think we're a wounded animal. And I think he's right. And I think if this side are looking at if this side are what I think they are, and have the mentality that I think they have, and the drive that I think they have, and it goes back probably to the squad that we have, and is it a case of keeping these together, and because we don't want to rock? No, I'm not. This is an excuse before anyone bleeding lynches me, but is it a case of we're sticking with what we have because we're going to prove it? And it's nearly a spite thing, and it's an absolute, you know, blinkers on. We're going for this, and I think if this squad are what I think they are, I think they're absolutely gunning for a league title. To not right or wrong of last season, because shit happens. You know what I mean? They weren't robbed of anything last season in a footballing sense. They were just, you know, in a worldly sense they were robbed. But right now, Phil, as I'm looking at it, regardless of what happens between now and Tuesday, this squad for me, and I'm right behind it. I'm all in on a league title. Champions League, you never know what can happen. You're in pot 2. You get a good draw, you get over, and then it's Russian roulette. You can find a team that are in great form, you can find a team that are in terrible form, and literally the way the Champions League's gone now, you get through the last 16 most of the time, and then when you hit last 8, there might be one in there that you'd fancy, and the rest of them you're looking going, they're all fucking great sides. And Liverpool are a great side, but there's loads of great sides in Europe, and it's a really hard thing to win the Champions League. But I think for me, Champions League was quarterfinals, and let's see where we get to. And that's the way I've always kind of been with it. But the league for me, I'm not tolerating top 4, and I'm not even tolerating top 3. I want the league title, and that's it. I want domestic cups. I'd like to see. Let's try to get through a couple of rounds, for fuck's sake. You know what I mean? Because not just for this. No, I know Phil's going to have a blow a gasket at that, but it's more for the likes of Cade Gordon. I want to see these players getting some game time, not the ones that are hanging around like the Gruiches and stuff that you knew was never going to happen for them. But the likes of Cade Gordon and a Nico Williams and you know, even Harvey Elliott to an extent. You know, and younger players that you see coming through. I'd like to see a couple of rounds in domestic cups, but give me the league title, and anything else after that, I'll take it as it is.
Shane, what is it for you?
Listen, like, success is winning one of the big 2. You know what I mean? League or the Champions League. I'm absolutely in your camp regarding the FA Cup, Phil. I fucking hate it, and if we never played in it again, it would not bother me in the slightest. But I actually am a huge fan of the League Cup. Midweek, 1 round, done on the night, no shitty replays. Final in February, all done and dusted. Nice little trophy to pick up if you can get it. The problem is, City put out their £360 reserves, £1 million
PSG in it this year as well.
And just cruise through the early rounds. Hockey and all before them, and they'd probably do the same again this year. But I'm coming from a slightly different angle, I suppose, from what you said at the start, kind of acceptability and all that. I have, as lads will know in the WhatsApp group, I tend to be a glass half empty person, and I will always have that fear that, like last year, like we were cruising. Next thing, them couple of injuries happen. What happens in the middle of the season happens, and we are absolutely up against the staring down the barrel of top 4. And I was geeking it. Didn't think we were going to get it last year. No and way. all credit, as you know, Gav. All credit to the lads, as I've repeatedly said, the last 10 games, fucking absolutely unbelievable to get forward. So I would like it's not that long ago where we weren't mainstays in the Champions League. We were like Arsenal, we were scrimping around chasing. Klopp came in, changed all that. So I would like to keep that run going and really fucking hammer the hammer. We are mainstays, top 4 Champions League. I want to continue that because that's the be all and end all. Unfortunately, for players and everything like that is the Champions League. And you're going to try and sign the best players. If you're not in the Champions League, it's very, very, very difficult. So that's just my concern slightly, like what's an acceptability. That's always kind of in the back of my head. Fucking nail top 4 down. But listen, success with this team last year, like I just said, we were fucking geek for fucking whatever, 12 weeks or whatever, injuries coming out of our hoop. Still managed to rally and fucking get top 4. All the big boys are back now, so I don't envision it being an issue. But success, winning one of the big two, league or Champions League, and I don't give a fuck which one.
Pedro, what say you?
The great thing about being completely written off by the press is that, you know, it becomes some people's reality. For some people, last year's 6 defeats at Anfield on the bounce is the reality of Liverpool. I think those some people are in for a hell of a shock. I think even us, I would agree exactly what Gav said earlier on, and I'm sure Sean, because Sean is always on the money when it comes to these things. It's not just the Liverpool. It's a combination of 2 things that could make the perfect storm. Liverpool are a wounded animal, and you cannot have a season like last season. Be a player like Virgil van Dijk, for example, to name one of 4 or 5 players who will be coming back very angry, and have a year like you did last year without wanting something back this year. It's a very, with everything that's happened, sadly, you know, COVID and all that, it's easy to forget that we were the best team on the planet that anybody had seen in a couple of decades, easily. Just a few months before that, to be honest. And we haven't lost anything in terms of quality. We've lost one player of energy, you know, but we haven't lost any quality. If anything, we've gained quality. I think, I still think, I look at what Man City are doing and I'm not afraid of it. I think they've lost the sharp end of the stick when they lost Aguero. I look at Chelsea, a lot of new players. I think they almost won the Champions League by default, to be quite honest. I honestly think that with everybody playing, we probably don't, even we forget, we are the best team on the planet. We are. Simple. So I will be, a good season is winning one of them, but I expect Liverpool to be in the shout. It's almost going to be like, for me, the perfect storm of the season that we were pipped. We got 97 points, didn't win the league, got to a Champions League final, lost it. Except we get across the line in both competitions. I think we win both competitions. And the B team gets through a few rounds in the domestic cups. I think we're going to have an unbelievable season. Honestly, everyone stays fit. Touch wood. I'm not just gassing it here. I honestly think that we've forgotten how good we are. You know, last year was a complete freak, and I think that extra year of togetherness, everything the boys have been through last year. I mean, you must be sitting looking at each other going, how the fuck did that happen? How angry? I mean, you look at a man, for example, like Virgil van Dijk. He's cool as you like. He's all of those things. But when he's fucking wound up, pardon my language, can you imagine what it's like? I mean, people are talking about Lukaku on Sunday and all this.
When he's wound up, pardon my language.
I'm not worried about. I'm not worried about any of these things. I'm looking at Virgil van Dijk is strolling his way through the season so far. He hasn't even opened his legs to sprint, you know. And Thiago, you know,
I'd argue and say that he hasn't looked as good as he was pre-injury in the first 2 games of the season. I think Matip's been imperious. If you were to take the 2 centre backs, I would say Matip has outplayed him over the first 2 games. It's great having Van Dijk back, and he gives an option from set pieces, and he looks dangerous from set pieces and changes that up at the top end. But I've been worried about Van Dijk, and it'll be interesting to see. I'm hoping that the first big game of the season this weekend raises. You know the way sometimes a player needs that challenge. He has Lukaku, who's a decent player, but tends not to turn up in big matches. And I'm just hoping that gives him the thing just to literally show that he has that step up again. So that's my only thing when it comes to VVD.
The test, you're right, mate. The test is coming. But listen, the biggest character we have is him. I fancy both of them trophies. I do fancy. Okay. I think.
So you're going. Success for you this season is the double of the league and the Champions League.
Yeah, both of them trophies. Why not?
I'm not going to be controversial here. Avoiding relegation for me.
I thought you were going to say I won't be as optimistic as any of those cunts, and I was going to go, well, that's...
Avoiding relegation for me will be success. Like, that's the most important things, that we don't go down, because they're in a battle now. Now, look, I think we have a limited amount of time with Jurgen Klopp, right? And my analogy is, I always think the Champions League is the closest you can get to the Super Bowl in non-American football, and that you don't have to be the best team to win it. Right, whereas I think the Premier League is such a rare combination of a number of teams that can win a league in the domestic title. There's very few leagues in Europe where you have 4 to 5 teams that can feasibly win a league, despite what Manchester City have spent. Right, you've got us, you've got United, you've got Chelsea, you've got us, and you've got City. Right, you've got they're the 4 teams this season who can win a league. Show me another league show me another league in Europe that has that many realistic challengers that are probably going to beat the most of the shit sides, and it's going to be who can get to 92, 93, 94 points, because they're going to take points off each other. Look at the quality amongst those sides now. They're going to take points off each other, right? So, to me, winning the league and hopefully winning another league title under Klopp. If Klopp left us in 2024 with 3 league titles, haven't been here, and a Champions League run, to me, that would be one. I can't, in modern day football, with the amount of money that's spent on the model that we have in place, and previous to this, Paisley, Paisley, Fagan, Dalglish, we were the biggest team in England. We spent the most money. We had the transfer records. We were that team at the very top of the table. We aren't in that category anymore. We're in the tier just below that. So to achieve 2 to 3 league titles, a Champions League title, and another Champions League final appearance under Jurgen Klopp in the amount of time he's there will be phenomenal. And for me, winning a second league title for this team and this squad was always the benchmark I wanted, because I think we talked about, was that just a wondrous season? And, you know, that amazing thing, because great sides do more than just win one title. Yeah, they do more than just 1, 2 back-to-back seasons.
This team won the Champions League as well, though.
Yeah, no, I'm saying they went 12 months
and had 97 points the previous season. And now, listen, they might as well have had 81 points. They finished second. But that's it, Shane. It's about putting titles on the board, right? And if this, for me, when people look back at Klopp's reign and Klopp's spell in charge, I want to see more than just one league season where people turn and say, well, it was one of those freak seasons where, you know, you take away any use of an asterisk, you take away that question mark that was there, right? And you just put that stamp down that the best teams always win more than just one title. And that is what I want to see. To me, success is winning another domestic title, and then hopefully seeing him win another Champions League before he bows out in 2024, if that's what his decision is.
Fair.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think, listen, I think with the way the landscape is of football, you have the likes of PSG, you have the countries owning football clubs now, and obviously you've got Abramovich at Chelsea. I think it's very difficult, and it's only going to get harder with the model that FSG have, which I'm fine with. I've been on record of saying I'm fine with. I don't need a Saudi fucking prince to come in and buy us, really. It's just, I'm happy enough the way we're run, but I think it's going to be difficult. I think for me, if he won one more of either, and that was his lot after coming in and taking over what he took over, and to give us the highest, and obviously the odd loan Kiev or whatever, but the run to get there was amazing. So listen, I think if he won one more of either and left us in 2024, I think he's been an unheralded success, and he'll forever be the one that ended the way for the league title. I don't care about asterisks and everything. You can put an asterisk on it because we blew the arse off the league by fucking January, so you can stick a couple of fucking asterisks.
We could have stayed on the same points as we went into that break and still won the league. But anyone that talks asterisk nonsense needs to slap
the asterisk stuff's ridiculous, because I think if the football didn't stop, I think Liverpool would have put a points total on the board that would have never been touched ever again.
Yeah.
They done 99 points and they were drunk for the last fucking 6 games. games.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's the saddest bit for me about that
it is
team.
for me as well. It is something where people go, point off City. Trust me, if that football hadn't stopped, Liverpool would have probably put 106 to 8 points on that board without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, and that's my only regret about that season. Fantastic we won the league, but look, I think if we won the league this year on 92, 93 points, and it's similar to what it was like in 18-19 where we come second, and we get there with 97 points, but there's a bigger spread of teams that are in the running for the title. It's probably even a bigger achievement, given the amount of money that's been spent since then, given the amount of money that's been put into Chelsea, that's been put into City, and all these type of teams that are there. I think that becomes then a bigger achievement yet again, because we've managed to do it with our system and our methodology in place. And that's a huge thing. That's a huge thing again for a manager to do what it is.
Well, it's only going to get hard, I feel. And look at you, I know you've been on record before saying, listen, this is going to end. We've now the divine right to be up there winning the league. Like it's cyclical. Like whether Klopp stays for an extra year or whatever, or when he does eventually go, we look at that, could be a fall off. I don't know who's going to come in, get the job, or what way it's going to be, or who's the club. So listen, you don't have any divine right, and you just want to. It's only going to get harder with the way City, PSG, Chelsea, etc. I don't think so. Listen, I take a hand off for one more of the big two.
Okay, look, that's been the show. I just want to point out to anyone that's listening to the chats that if you want to figure out what Tommy Tuchel was doing when he was given the heave-ho at PSG, go on to Netflix and go on to Harlan Coben's most recent novel that's been made into a French TV program called Gone for Good, and you'll find him on there playing as an actor, and he's playing the character Fred, who is the thought dead brother of Guillaume, right? So it's one for everyone to go out there and have a look at before the weekend, and you'll thank me for that, right? The look-alike is actually frightening. I was watching there going, is that what the fuck I was doing? And then Eric Cantona has a movie up there as well, so it's definitely worth going on if you have a Netflix subscription. Well, yeah, Gone for Good. Check it out. Fred, the actor that plays Fred, Tommy Tuchel, all over. And before he turned up at Chelsea, he had to do something to keep the old bills and the electricity on the gaff. This has been the forum. Beside me is Shane Davern. Below me is Pete. Pedro. I don't know what's Smith in Spanish.
They have no Ferrer in Catalan.
There you go, Pedro Ferrer, right, all the way from Spain, right? And then over in the bottom corner, with his mic turned off again, is of course the man who's been doing the graphics and the thing. It's Gavin Doyle. Before we go, buy a ticket for Sienna. Cost you €1, right? That's all. We get to 11,000 subs. We do 100.
No, we're past that.
Euros.
We're past that. Get to 12,000 now.
Get to 12,000. We'll do a tenner.
We do another 100.
Do another 100 in if we get to 12,000, right? So, no excuses not to do it. Tell your folks, tell everyone, tell the crane drivers, tell the bus drivers, the whole lot. Get them €1, won't cost anything. Thank you again for all the chats. We enjoyed them as we're going through. And we're back tomorrow night, which is Tuesday. Do a show tomorrow night, Gav?
No
show tomorrow.
No, I want to give. No, I don't have a night off. I want to give a shout out to Conroy that's been on a couple of shows in the last week or 10 days. He has his own channel, and me and him are going on there tomorrow night to have a chat about Liverpool. So Conroy Talks is his YouTube channel, so go and check that out tomorrow night at 10 o'clock.
Super. And then Wednesday we have the Wednesday fix with Jamie coming live from. I don't think he's.
You're doing well.
He's not in a hot tub, is he? Well, hopefully he's not in a hot tub. So there's Jamie.
If there's paint all over him when he comes on, don't panic. He's just being painting in the house.
Yeah, he hasn't been at Pete's steamy webcam. Then Thursday we have Carnage, where Grizz and Avi will talk absolute bollocks about imaginary transfers that are not going to happen before the transfer window. I can't wait for the transfer window. What?
I don't know if Avi's on again. You're doing great here. Go on, keep going.
Yeah.
You've got all of them wrong so far.
On Friday, we have the Red Sea Cop lads who will be doing the preview show. Am I right there, Gav? Is that day on Friday?
No, on Friday it's Sports Unplugged with Avi and Connor.
Well, Avi will be back sports. On, having talked the vast quantities of shite with Grizz on Thursday to talk more shite about wrestling. If you're a grown adult that's into wrestling,
last week was wrestling. This week I'd say it'll be all different sports. He just picks sports and goes for it. Fair play to him.
But go get yourself help. If you start sending me shit about WWF and all that type of stuff,
Phil, you're not doing very well at promoting this fucking stuff we work hard on all week.
But it's great. It's a great show, and you should definitely tune in because the lads talk about loads of things. They're talking. I'm going on it some week, and I'm going to be talking about corn sack, the corn sack championships that ESPN show in between all the stuff about 3 o'clock.
What are we doing Saturday, Phil?
Saturday we're doing the preview show with the Red Sea Cop lads.
No, we're doing a pre-match show with the countdown to kick off. This week it is Darren and Conroy. What are we doing after it, Phil?
We're doing the match after the show.
Yeah, the Red Sea lads are on.
The Red Sea lads.
Yeah, there you go. You said them 4 times,
yeah.
but now right at the death they got in there. Now the Red Sea lads will be on after the Chelsea game as well.
Grand. And they'll be on to discuss what happened during the Chelsea game and if Tommy Tuchel's performance as Fred in Gone for Good was definitely worth watching. And then finally on Sunday, we have the Fatback 4. Well, there'll be a combination of 4 people on there dressed as wrestlers, I believe, this week, to celebrate Avi's wrestling show on Friday night.
We haven't decided yet. Yeah.
So that's the week ahead. So I hope you all tune in and get in with your comments. And don't miss anything.
Well,
do you like that, Gav?
Yeah,
stick that in the promo tomorrow.
I can't see you getting a job at the TV listings companies, but listen, it is what it is.
It is indeed. That's been the show. I've been your host, Phil Casey. Good night, God bless. Talk to you next week.